Chosen one, if your heart is still here, that already says a lot about the woman you are. You did not just pass by these words. You allowed them to reach places that had been quiet, hidden, maybe even asleep from lack of care. You have a history of staying on your feet even when everything in you wanted to lie down and never get up again. And that made many people see you only as strong, as if you had no limits, as if it did not hurt you too. But heaven sees beyond that image. God sees the little girl inside the grown woman, the one who hardly ever had space to fall apart, who learned to hold herself together, to keep quiet, to adjust in order to fit. Today, this message is like a long, deep breath for that inner girl and that grown woman at the same time. It is heaven saying, I know who you really are, and I came to talk to you. As a friend who has finally found you in a quieter corner of the house, what rises first is a desire to hold you, not to correct you. You have listened to so many voices telling you what you should be, how you should react, what you should endure, that sometimes it became hard to hear your own soul. You started to think it was normal to swallow your tears, to minimize what you feel, to put your own exhaustion on the last shelf and say it's just another phase, even when that phase had already lasted for years. Heaven, however, never gets used to what is unfair to you. God never gets used to seeing you carry more than your heart can bear. He knows the exact weight of everything that has been placed on your shoulders. And now this message from heaven arrives like someone pulling up a chair, sitting in front of you and saying, I do not just want you to endure. I want you to be healed, valued, respected, truly loved, starting with me and also by yourself. Maybe you have spent an entire life feeling like the responsible one, the strong one, the one who gets things done, and deep down that taught you a dangerous lie. The idea that there is no room for your fragility. You became an expert at supporting, listening, comforting, helping everyone else put themselves back together. People plugged their pain into you, as if you were an outlet that is always available, and rarely asked how you really were. And even so, you stayed there, steady, finding a way, improvising strength, smiling with tired eyes so no one would worry. Now, though, God is placing a different mirror in front of you. He's not only showing the strong woman everyone sees, he's showing the tired woman almost no one understood, the sensitive woman almost no one cared for, the deep woman almost no one listened to until the end. And he is saying, I see, I always saw, and this, today, is for you. Think about how many times you've heard beautiful messages, powerful testimonies, words that seem to touch everyone but you. Maybe you thought, that's so good for them. I hope it helps someone, as if you were always standing just outside the line. The truth, however, is that your heart needed it just as much, or even more. It's just that it had become so used to being last, so trained to accept emotional crumbs, that even receiving care feels strange. That is why heaven had to be so direct. This is for you, not like someone grabbing you by the clothes with a scolding tone, but like someone holding your face gently with both hands and speaking while looking into your eyes. Up close, without shouting, with a soft voice, your time has come to be reached. Do not run away from the table I prepared for your heart. And it is normal to feel a bit disoriented at first. Sometimes, when the love of God comes this specifically, it touches places where there is very old dust, memories of when you felt rejected, of when you were picked last, of when they said you were too difficult, too intense, too sensitive. That is why, while you read or listen, you might feel like crying without even knowing exactly why. It is as if your soul were releasing a silent finally, a relief for finally hearing something that is not demanding more effort from you, but offering rest. Do not fight that feeling. Do not call yourself silly. Do not order yourself to stop. Let it be. Let the tear come if it comes. Let the lump in your throat be noticed. Every reaction is a sign that the inner walls are beginning to soften. As a friend, what needs to be said is, you do not have to prove anything here. You do not have to show that you understood everything, or promise that from now on you will be perfect, or make 1,000 resolutions. Heaven is not conducting an interview with you. Heaven is offering you a lap to rest on. And a lap is not a place of performance. It is a place of surrender. If all you can say to God today is, I am here, tired, confused, but I am here, that is already much more than you imagine. Because behind that simple sentence, there are years of survival, of pushing your own pain aside, of keeping on walking without a manual. Now, for the first time in a long time, you are stopping long enough to let God talk to you without hurry. Maybe a part of you is still whispering, but is this really for me? Isn't he talking to someone more important, more spiritual, more put together? And that is exactly the part God wants to reach with tenderness. He knows how many times you felt less spiritual because you could not pray like others, because you got distracted, because you fell asleep crying without having beautiful words to say. He knows how many times you carried guilt for not having the strength to be the woman of faith you imagined you should be. And even then, he stayed by your side, holding you in silences no one saw. On days when just getting out of bed was already a prayer. This message, then, also comes as a correction of the distortions that were placed on you about who he is. He is not the God who demands from you without helping you. He is the God who holds you until you remember who you have always been in his eyes. If all of this is touching you in some way, do not run. Stay. Imagine you are finishing a very long coffee with this faithful friend who does not throw anything in your face, who does not use what you share against you, who does not disappear after hearing the most sensitive parts of your story. That is how heaven is positioning itself now, not as a harsh judge, but as a presence that remains. Even when you finish reading or watching, this conversation does not end. It continues in the way you will start talking to God in a little while, maybe with simple words, maybe only with a long sigh. And that is prayer too. If you want, you can even say in a low voice, just you and him, I do not know where to start, but I want to receive this message as mine. I need this healing. I need this care. I do not want to live as if it were always for others. It is not theatre. It is an honest way of opening the door. And the most beautiful thing is that God does not force his way in. He comes in as much as you let him. Today, by allowing this word to grow inside you, you are already saying yes without realizing it. And that yes, even tired, even shy, even trembling, is exactly what heaven needed to continue what has already begun in your heart. Chosen one, if you are here in this second moment, it already shows that something inside you recognized this as more than just another message on a screen. You could have closed, moved on, distracted your mind with 100 other things. But you stayed, and that says a lot about the quiet courage that lives in you, even on the days when you feel completely worn out. You have spent so many years putting yourself in the background that when heaven insists, this is for you, part of you almost wants to look over your shoulder and ask, are you sure? Yes, he is sure. This is for the woman who is listening right now. You have a long story of being the one who holds everyone else together. You learnt to be the safe place for other people's tears, the listener for other people's problems, the strong one in moments when everything seemed to be falling apart. Somewhere along that road, you started to believe that your role was to be the pillar, and pillars don't complain, don't rest, don't show cracks. But you are not a stone. You are a heart, and your heart has limits, needs, longings, and wounds that have been waiting a very long time to be acknowledged. This is why heaven is stopping you here, like a friend who gently takes your hand and says, sit down for a moment. Today we are talking about you. There is a kind of tiredness that no one sees, the tiredness of always being available, always understanding, always adapting. You may have gotten so used to hearing, you're strong, you can handle it, that you almost felt guilty on the days when you couldn't handle it at all. But strength is not the same as silence, and faith is not the same as pretending. God is not impressed by masks. He is moved by truth. When you finally dare to say, I am exhausted, I am confused, I feel alone, heaven does not step back in shock. Heaven steps closer. That is what is happening now through these words. God is coming closer to the real you, not the version you put on to keep everyone else calm. Think again about the women who walked before you. Hannah, who poured out her soul in a way that made others misjudge her, yet God heard every word and every wordless sob. Ruth, who woke up day after day to another ordinary, tiring routine in the fields, while heaven was quietly weaving redemption through each step. Naomi, who felt empty and bitter, convinced her story was over, while God was already planting chapters of restoration she could not see yet. These were not women with perfect devotional lives and neat emotions. They were women in process, women who hurt, women who doubted, and still, heaven called them, carried them, and honored them. You stand in that same line. Maybe you have listened to many messages and learnt to think, I hope this helps someone, as if you were only a channel, never the target. But today, heaven is insisting, you are not just a bridge, you are also a garden. Bridges carry others across. Gardens need time, care, water, and light. For a long time, almost no one asked how your garden was doing on the inside, if the soil was dry, if the flowers were wilting, if there were weeds of old words choking your joy. God is asking that now, not to expose you, not to criticize your garden, but to tend to it with his own hands. There are parts of your heart that have been in drought for years, and even you stopped expecting rain. This message is the first drop. If something in you is whispering, this really sounds like it is for me, believe that whisper. Do not argue with it. You do not need to be more spiritual or more perfect, or more organized in your faith for God to speak to you in such a personal way. He is not arriving now because you finally deserve it. He is arriving because he has always loved you, and you are finally still enough to notice. As your friend, the most honest thing to tell you is this: you are allowed to be the one who receives, not just the one who gives. You are allowed to be comforted. You are allowed to be guided. You are allowed to be treated gently. If it feels right, even with your voice low and your thoughts scattered, you can tell him from where you are, I am here. I am tired, but I am here. If this is really for me, help me receive it. That is enough. You do not have to impress heaven with long speeches. A sincere sentence from a sincere heart weighs more than 1,000 practiced phrases. Let this be your second step, not doing more, but allowing God to come closer, allowing these words to sit inside you, allowing your soul to admit that, yes, you need this. And as you keep going, minute by minute, you will see that this truly is not just a message. It is a conversation heaven chose to have with you. Chosen one, if you are still here for this third moment, it already means that something deep in you is refusing to go back to the old way of ignoring your own heart. You did not just let it play in the background. You have been present enough to feel, to think, to let certain memories and emotions surface, and that is a very brave thing to do. Many people turn away as soon as something starts to touch the real pain, but you stay tired, maybe unsure, maybe but here. Heaven sees that. God is not just counting the number of times you've prayed. He is also counting the number of times you did not run away when he began to speak directly to you like this. By now, you may have already noticed that this message is peeling back layers you've got used to living under. One of those layers is the belief that you always have to be okay enough for everyone else. You learn to measure your own worth by how useful you could be, by how much you could handle, by how little trouble you caused. Somewhere on that road, you stopped asking yourself a simple, honest question. How am I really? You became the woman who asked that question to everyone else, but rarely to herself. In this moment, God is gently turning that question back toward you, not to make you feel selfish, but to remind you that your inner world matters just as much as the lives you have been carrying in prayer for years. There is also another layer, the way you talk to yourself when no one is listening. For a long time, your inner voice learned to be harsh, impatient, unforgiving. Maybe you have called yourself stupid after a mistake, weak for crying, dramatic for feeling deeply, late for not being where you thought you should be at this age. If anyone else spoke to you the way your own thoughts sometimes do, you would call it abuse. And yet, you got used to treating yourself like that every day. Heaven is not ignoring this. Right now, through these words, God is beginning to reset that inner voice. He is not asking you to repeat empty phrases. He is inviting you to slowly replace "I am a problem" with "I am a person." "I am a failure" with "I am learning." "I am a burden" with "I am a daughter." This is part of the healing too. Think again about the women in Scripture who walked with God in the middle of their own mess and pain. The Samaritan woman at the well, carrying shame and complicated history, met Jesus in a normal, dry, hot day. And in one conversation, he revealed that he had seen her whole story and still chose to sit with her. The woman with the issue of blood, who spent years trying and failing to get better, pushed through the crowd with the last of her strength just to touch the edge of his garment, and that fragile movement of faith changed everything. Mary Magdalene, marked by a dark past, became one of the first witnesses of the resurrection. None of them were perfect. All of them were deeply known. You are not an exception. Your story, with all its tangled chapters, is just as visible to him. Right here, in this third stretch, there is a quiet invitation. Instead of only seeing yourself through the eyes of people who misunderstood you, begin to ask, God, who do you say I am? Maybe no one ever asked that with you before. Maybe you were only named by your roles: mother, wife, daughter, friend, worker, and never by your heart. But God sees the woman who loves deeply, who feels intensely, who gets up again and again even when no one cheers, who keeps believing in small ways even when faith seems far away. He sees the times you wanted to give up and didn't. He sees the kindness you showed when no one was watching. He sees the days you held yourself together just enough so that the people you love would not fall apart. When he says this is for you, he is speaking to that woman. If, while you read this, a mix of resistance and relief rises in you, part of you wanting to close the door, part of you wanting to stay, that is normal. Healing often feels like that. It is okay to feel conflicted. You do not have to choose perfectly. You just have to choose honestly. If you can, even if only inside your mind, answer heaven with something simple. I am scared to look too deep, but I do not want to keep living numb. Help me stay. That is a very mature prayer. You are not promising never to struggle again. You are just admitting that you want more than the life of emotional survival you have been living. And that is exactly where God loves to meet a heart. From here on, this journey will keep inviting you to treat yourself the way a true friend would treat you, with patience, with respect, with truth spoken gently. You are not a project to be fixed. You are a person to be loved back to wholeness. Let this third step be the moment you quietly decide that you will no longer be the only one in the room who does not get to be cared for. Heaven is already caring for you. Now, little by little, you will learn to care for yourself too. Chosen one, if you are still here for this fourth moment, heaven is taking your persistence very seriously. You have let these words walk through rooms inside you that you normally keep closed. And even when it stirred up memories and emotions you were not expecting, you kept listening. That alone is a sign of how much you actually long for something real with God, something deeper than cliches and quick phrases. You are not here because you are bored. You are here because, somewhere inside, you are tired of surviving on a version of yourself that does not match who you were truly created to be. By now, you have started to see how much weight you have carried in silence. You have seen the way you speak to yourself, the beliefs you absorbed about your worth, the roles you took on to keep the peace around you. In this moment, heaven is not adding more weight. Heaven is gently removing what was never yours. You were never meant to be responsible for everyone's happiness. You were never called to sacrifice your soul so that everyone else could be comfortable. You were never designed to live with a heart permanently pushed to the back of the line. When God says this is for you, He is also saying, it is time to stop living like your needs are always optional. Think for a moment about how Jesus treated women whose stories were heavy and complicated. He listened without rushing. He defended them when others wanted to condemn. He called them daughter, woman, with a voice that lifted their heads instead of pushing them down. The bent-over woman who had spent years looking at the ground was straightened in one encounter, and More than that, had her dignity restored in front of everyone. The woman caught in adultery, surrounded by accusations, was left alone with the only one who could truly judge her, and he chose mercy. These moments were not just miracles, they were resets of identity. The same heart that looked at them is looking at you now. Not with disgust, not with impatience, but with deep compassion and honor. There is something very important happening in this stage of your journey. You are beginning to separate who you are from what happened to you. For a long time, the wounds you carried, rejection, betrayal, abandonment, harsh words, tried to rename you. They whispered, "You are not wanted. You are not enough. You are always the problem. You are too late." And because those lies came wrapped in real experiences, they felt true. But heaven's truth is different. God is not denying what you went through. He is denying those experiences the right to decide your identity. You are not the sum of how others mishandled you. You are not the worst version of your past. You are not the mistakes you regret. You are the woman God sees when He looks past all of that and into your core. As your friend sitting with you in this, the desire is to tell you gently, you are allowed to stop agreeing with every thought that passes through your mind. Just because an idea appears, I ruin everything. I am a burden. I am too old to change. God is tired of me, does not mean it deserves a place at your table. Part of this heavenly message is teaching you to notice those thoughts and answer them differently. You can say, "No, that is not who I am," even if you do not feel it yet. You can say, "I am learning to see myself the way God sees me," even if your emotions have not caught up. This is not pretending. It is choosing which voice will lead your heart from now on. If, right now, there is a part of you that feels raw, exposed, maybe even a little angry or afraid, know that this too is part of healing. Sometimes, before peace settles, truth has to move the dust around. You are not being broken for the sake of breaking. You are being opened so that what is heavy and poisonous can finally leave. You do not have to rush to feel better to make God comfortable. He is not uncomfortable with your process. He is not disappointed that things are messy inside. He knew exactly what He was touching when He said this was for you. If it feels honest to your heart, you can whisper something simple in this moment, as if you were speaking to both God and yourself. I do not fully understand everything you're doing, but I want to keep walking. I want to see who I am in your eyes. I am tired of being my own enemy. You do not have to force tears or force calm. You just have to stay. Stay in this conversation. Stay in this gentle, loving confrontation. Stay in this place where, maybe for the first time in a long time, you are not being asked to carry more, but invited to finally let God carry you. Chosen one, if you are still here for this fifth moment and asking for more, it shows just how deeply your heart is engaging with what heaven is doing. You are not just curious. You are hungry for a real shift inside, tired of living as if your own soul were always the last on the list. You have allowed these words to touch thoughts you do not normally share with anyone. And even when that made you feel exposed, you kept going. That says so much about your courage. You've spent a lifetime being strong for others. Now you are letting yourself be strong in a different way, strong enough to stay when God starts to speak directly to you, not just about you. By this point, a lot has been brought to the surface. The way you've carried everyone else's weight as if it were your duty. The way you've minimized your tiredness so that no one would worry. The way your own needs were often treated as too much or not important enough. You learned, over time, to live as if your feelings were always negotiable, but everyone else's were sacred. You became the safe harbor for other people's storms, but rarely had a harbor of your own. In this season, heaven is gently turning that upside down. God is not taking away your compassion or your generosity. He is teaching you that love that never includes you is incomplete. The same care you pour out is the care He wants to pour back into you. There is a deep and holy adjustment happening in how you see your worth. For so long, you tied your value to what you could do, how much you helped, how much you carried, how much you fixed, how much you endured. When you felt useful, you felt a little more worthy. When you felt tired or unable, shame would creep in, whispering that you were failing everyone. But heaven never measured you that way. In God's eyes, your value was never based on output. It was always anchored in identity. You were loved on the days you did everything, and you were just as loved on the days you could barely manage the basics. This message is not about turning you into someone you are not. It is about finally aligning your vision of yourself with His. Think about how many nights you went to sleep feeling like you did not do enough, did not say enough, did not handle things well enough. You replayed conversations in your mind, blaming yourself, wondering if you were the problem, wearing a blanket of quiet guilt that no one else could see. Yet, in those same nights, while you lay there feeling like a failure, heaven saw the full picture, how much you had given, how much you had swallowed, how much you had carried without recognition. God saw the invisible battles behind your visible day. He saw the self-control you used to avoid saying hurtful words when you were in pain. He saw the times you wanted to disappear but chose to stay. He is not judging you the way you have judged yourself. In this expanded fifth moment, there is something very important unfolding. You are beginning to understand that your story is not only about what happened to you, but also about what God has been doing in you all along. Those times when you felt an unexpected peace for no logical reason, the days when a small kindness arrived exactly when you were at your limit. The moments when a phrase, a song, a verse, or even a simple message seemed to speak directly to what you were feeling, that was not randomness. Those were small interventions, like soft threads of grace, sewing your heart together so it would not fall apart. Now, instead of brushing those moments off, heaven is inviting you to recognize them as proof. You are never left alone in the dark. This is also the place where God begins to prepare you for new choices. Healing is not just about feeling different. It is about living differently. Little by little, you will start to notice that some automatic reactions are losing strength. Where you used to say yes instantly, you may pause and check how your heart feels first. Where you used to accept harsh words as normal, you may feel a quiet resistance rising, telling you, "I do not deserve to be spoken to like this." Where you used to push through exhaustion without thinking twice, you may feel a new permission to rest, even if part of you still feels guilty about it. These are not signs of you becoming selfish. They are signs of you becoming honest about what your soul can and cannot carry. As your friend, what needs to be said clearly in this longer moment is this: your needs are not a threat to God's plan. They are part of what He cares about. He is not asking you to ignore your body, your emotions, or your limits in the name of being strong. He is inviting you to walk with Him in such a way that your heart is not sacrificed on every altar. For years, you may have thought that being a good woman meant being silent, available, accommodating, always ready, never tired. But that image has cost you too much. The God who made you knows the exact capacity of your heart, and He is not impressed when you torture yourself to appear okay. He is moved when you come to Him honestly and say, "I am not okay, and I need you." If right now you feel a kind of ache-like grief for all the times you abandoned yourself, all the times you said it's nothing when it was actually a lot, that is part of the healing too. You are mourning the years in which your own soul had to sit in the back row. Let that grief move through you. Do not silence it. You can tell God, in simple words, exactly that you are sad for how you have treated yourself, that you are tired of believing you are only valuable when you are useful, that you want to learn a new way. He is not surprised by this confession. He already knew, and He has been waiting for this kind of honesty because it opens a wide door for Him to work. From this expanded place, imagine what your life might look like if you truly believe that your heart matters to God as much as the hearts you pray for. Maybe you would rest a little more without apologizing. Maybe you would speak a little more kindly to yourself in the mirror. Maybe you would allow yourself to enjoy small pleasures without feeling guilty for a few minutes of joy. Maybe you would step out of environments that constantly belittle you and move towards spaces that honor your presence. None of this erases your responsibilities, but it rearranges the order. You are on the list now, not just everyone else. Let this longer fifth step be a kind of inner promise between you and God, that you will not keep walking as if your heart is expendable. You have spent enough years believing that you were always too much or not enough. Heaven is offering you a different foundation. You are loved, you are wanted, you are seen, and your process is precious. When you feel tempted to slip back into old habits of self-erasure, remember moments like this, where you stayed, where you listened, where you dared to let God talk about you with tenderness. If it feels honest now, put a hand over your heart, breathe slowly, and whisper something simple. God, I've been hard on myself for a very long time. I do not know exactly how to change, but I want to. Teach me to walk with you in a way that does not destroy me. I do not want to abandon myself anymore. Even if your voice trembles, that is more than enough. Heaven hears, and heaven responds. You are not a project too advanced to repair. You are a daughter in whom God is still delighting, still investing, still believing. And this fifth moment, made bigger and deeper, is proof that He cares enough to stay with you for as long as it takes. Chosen one, if you have remained all the way to this sixth moment, heaven is looking at you with a kind of tenderness that human words barely describe. You did not stay because everything in your life is simple and light. You stayed precisely because it is not. You stayed with a tired body, a busy mind, a heart full of history and still. Something in you chose not to close this door. That something is not just willpower. It is a quiet pull from God, a kind of spiritual hand on your back saying, do not give up on yourself now. You have walked through many seasons alone on the inside, even when surrounded by people. This time you are not walking to the end alone. Heaven has been side by side with you in every word. At this point, so much has been uncovered. The way you were taught to hide your needs, the harsh voice you used against yourself, the pattern of always being the pillar while crumbling inside. You have looked at painful memories, at old labels, at beliefs that have sat in your chest for years, telling you that you were always too much or never enough. None of that scared God away. On the contrary, He stayed. And now, in this final stretch, He's not just comforting you. He is speaking over your life with authority, like a friend, and like a father who has the right to rewrite the story. This is where your heart, your future, and your identity are held in His hands and spoken over with truth. Right now, imagine your life as if it were being held gently in front of God. Every age you have lived, every house you have called home, every person who marked you for good or for pain, every night you cried, every morning you pushed yourself to keep going. He is not looking at that with cold distance. He is looking with deep understanding. He knows why you became so strong. He knows why you learned to stay quiet. He knows which moment broke your trust, which words still echo, which loss still hurts when you are alone. And over all of that, He is not saying, why weren't you better? He is saying, you made it here. With everything against you, you made it here. Now let me take it from here in a different way. This is the place where heaven begins to settle a decree in your story, not a decree of perfection, but of direction. Over your heart, let it be said, you will no longer live as your own enemy. From today on, even if it is slow and imperfect, you will learn to talk to yourself with more kindness, to forgive yourself for not knowing then what you know now, to see your younger versions with compassion instead of contempt. Over your mind, let it be said, the thoughts that have tormented you for years will no longer have the same power. They may still knock at your door, but you will not have to believe every one of them. You will grow in the ability to say, this is not who I am, and to let that sentence stand, even when your feelings are shaking. Over your days ahead, let it be said, you will not just make it through them. You will discover new ways of being alive in them. There will still be responsibilities, pressures, and challenges, but you will not walk into them as a woman who believes she deserves only the leftovers of care. You will walk as someone who knows she is allowed to rest, allowed to ask for help, allowed to say enough where her soul cannot carry more. There'll be mornings when you wake up and still feel heavy. That does not mean the work failed. Healing is not a straight line. But even on those mornings, there will be something different. The memory that God has spoken about you, that He has stayed with you, that you are not a forgotten case. As your friend, there is something very important to say here. You are not behind, not in God's calendar. You are not late for healing, not late for love, not late for restoration. Heaven does not look at your age and say, too late. Heaven looks at your heart and says, right on time for what I want to do now. Every year you think you're wasted, He can still weave into wisdom. Every season you think was only pain, He can still turn into a place of understanding and empathy that will bless others. Your life is not over. It is being redirected. The reset is not about going back to the past. It is about walking forward differently from here. If, in this moment, you feel a lump in your throat, a warmth in your chest, or even a strange quiet settling over you, treat it as something sacred. Put your hand over your heart if you can, and take one slow breath. You do not have to impress heaven now. You just have to be honest. In your own words, you can whisper something like, God, I receive what you have been doing in me. I give you my past, my present, and my future. I do not want to abandon myself anymore. Walk with me in this. It does not need to be eloquent. What matters is that it is real. From here on, the message may end, the screen may go dark, but the work does not stop. It will continue in the way you think about yourself when you make a mistake, in the way you choose rest when your body begs for it, in the way you start to say small, healthy no's where your heart has been overrun. It will continue in the moments when you remember these words and feel a little lighter, a little less alone. Each of those moments is heaven whispering again, this is still for you. You are not a visitor in God's care. You are home there. And as you step out of this sixth part into your ordinary day, carry this with you like a quiet seal over your life. You are seen. You are known. You are wanted. And your story is not finished. You may still feel fragile, but you are not forsaken. You may still feel tired, but you are not unloved. Walk slowly if you need to, but walk knowing this: heaven has spoken over you. And no amount of old pain is more powerful than the love that keeps insisting again and again, this is for you. Chosen one, if you are here in this seventh stretch, it means you have done something many people never allow themselves to do. You've stayed. You stayed when it got deep. You stayed when it stirred memories. You stayed when the words started to sound like they were reading your diary instead of preaching a distant message. That alone already marks this season as different. Heaven is not looking at you as someone who just listened to another video. Heaven is looking at you as a daughter who chose not to abandon herself this time, even when it would have been easier to shut everything off and go back to numbing the heart. By now, you have walked through parts of your story that you usually avoid, and you have begun to see yourself with new eyes. You have seen how much of your life was spent taking care of everyone else, while your own soul waited quietly in the corner. You have seen how harsh your inner voice has been, how quickly you blamed yourself for everything, how easily you excused the pain others caused you. You have seen that your tiredness is not laziness, that your tears are not a sign of weakness, that your sensitivity is not a defect, it is part of what makes you capable of loving so deeply. And in all of this, God did not step back in disappointment. He drew closer, as if to say, now that you are finally seeing what I have always seen, we can walk differently together. This seventh moment is like standing on a small hill and looking back at the path you have just walked. You are not at the end of your life, but you are at the end of a certain way of living. You are closing a chapter of emotional survival and opening a chapter of conscious, gentle, God-led healing. When you look back, you will still see pain, but you will also see strength. You will see the nights you thought you would not make it, and did. You will see the days you loved when you were empty. You will see the moments when something inside you, even if tiny, refused to give up completely. These are not just sad stories. They are proof that heaven never stopped holding you, even when you had no words left to pray. From here, there is a very important shift in responsibility. You are no longer the only one trying to carry your life on your own shoulders. God is not asking you to go fix everything now that you understand a bit more. He is asking you to walk with Him step by step, day by day, letting what you received here change how you treat yourself out there. That means you will not talk to your own heart the same way anymore. It means you will pause before saying yes to something that crushes you. It means you will allow yourself to feel without immediately judging your feelings. It means you will remember, when old lies come knocking, that heaven has already spoken something different over you. As your friend, what rises in this 7th chapter is a deep desire for you to know that you are not going back to zero when this message ends. Everything that was touched, everything that was soft, everything that was exposed in love, none of that disappears when you close your eyes or close the screen. It stays in you as seed. Some seeds will sprout quickly, a kinder word to yourself, a new boundary, a moment of unexpected peace. Others will take time, deeper forgiveness, bolder decisions, new ways of relating to people. You do not have to control the timing. Your part is to protect what was planted by remembering, by talking to God honestly, by refusing to call this nothing or just emotion. If right now you feel both grateful and a little scared, grateful for what you received, scared of losing it when you go back to normal life, bring that to God exactly as it is. You can say, in your own words, I do not want this to be just a beautiful moment that I forget. Help me live what you spoke to me. Help me remember who I am when old patterns try to pull me back. That is a very mature prayer. It does not deny your fear, but it also does not kneel to it. It puts your process back in the hands of the one who started it. As you step out of this 7th moment, carry this truth like a quiet sentence written over your day. You are no longer invisible to yourself. You have seen your own heart more clearly here. You have felt your own pain with more honesty. You have allowed yourself to be comforted without calling it weakness. That alone already changes the atmosphere around you. You may still have a long road ahead, but you will not walk it as the woman who believes everything is her fault and nothing is for her. You will walk it as someone who heard heaven say again and again, "This is for you," and finally believed that it was true. Chosen one, if you are here at this final moment, heaven is looking at you with a deep, quiet pride. You did not only listen, you allowed yourself to be seen. You opened doors inside that had been locked for years, and even when it felt vulnerable, you did not run away. You have walked through memories, lies, tears, small flashes of hope, and you stayed until the end. That matters. In a world where so many things are half finished, where so many hearts are half felt, you chose to go all the way with God in this conversation. You may not feel strong, but your staying power is one of the clearest signs of the strength heaven has always seen in you. Right now, imagine that everything you have lived, everything you have felt during this message, is like a book open on the table in front of God. Every chapter, childhood, youth, relationships, losses, silent nights, days of survival is there. Nothing is missing, nothing is hidden from Him, and He is not skimming quickly. He is reading with attention, with affection, with tears in His own eyes for the places that hurt you. While you see pages filled with shame, He sees pages filled with endurance. While you see paragraphs of I failed, He sees paragraphs of she tried, she loved, she stayed. While you see blank spaces and unanswered questions, He sees room for new words that have not yet been written. Over that open book, He leans closer and says, I am not finished. Your story with me does not end in pain. I am still writing. This is the moment where heaven's message becomes something like a gentle seal over your life. You are not being sent away with a list of things to fix. You are being sent forward with a new way to see yourself and your journey. From today on, even when old thoughts come back, you will remember that there was a time when God spoke to you personally, calling you out of invisibility, calling you out of self-hatred, calling you back to your own heart. You will remember that He named your tiredness without despising you, that He honored your survival instead of only pointing at your wounds. You will remember that He sat with you through every word, not as a distant judge, but as the closest friend you have ever had. Over your future days, even the ordinary ones, there is now a quiet decree. You will not go back to treating yourself as if you do not matter. You may still have moments of doubt, of sadness, of old habits trying to drag you back, but something has changed. You know too much now about how deeply you are seen. When you catch yourself repeating old patterns, apologizing for existing, shrinking so others feel big, attacking yourself in your thoughts, you will feel a gentle tension inside, as if something whispers, "We do not do this to ourselves anymore." That whisper is part of this message living in you. It is heaven's echo, reminding you that you are loved, not tolerated, wanted, not endured. As your friend in this journey, there is one last thing to ask of you. Please do not treat what happened here as just emotion or just a video. This was a meeting. Maybe not with bright lights or big external signs, but with a depth that often only shows up in quiet, personal spaces like this. On the days when you are tempted to think nothing really changed, look back and remember the moments that made you breathe differently. The sentences that felt like they were written inside your chest. The tears that came from a place you had not visited in years. Those are real. Those are proof that God did more than inform you. He touched you. When you finish reading or listening and step back into your routines, take one simple action that agrees with what you received. It can be very small, speaking more gently to yourself after a mistake, allowing yourself 10 quiet minutes without guilt, saying no once where you would automatically have said yes, writing down one sentence from this message that you do not want to forget. These little acts are like signatures at the bottom of what heaven has already written. They say, "I was there, I heard it, and I choose to walk in it." If right now you feel gratitude rising, even if it is mixed with tiredness, with questions, with a soft ache, do not silence it. Put your hand over your heart if you can, close your eyes for a moment, and talk to God in your own words. You might say something like, "Thank you for not skipping over me. Thank you for speaking to me so personally. I give you my story again. Help me not to abandon myself anymore." And if, from deep inside, that simple phrase comes, the one that carries your whole thank you in just a few words, let it rise without fear. For every moment you held me when I thought I would not make it, for this care, for this new beginning, then walk forward, one day at a time, not as a woman trying to earn love, but as a chosen daughter slowly learning to live from the love she has always had.